Hi everyone, welcome to this quick tutorial on an ink and watercolor painting of an old country farmhouse. So I start every drawing with a really simple sketch. So I'm looking at my big shapes and just trying to get in the road, the angles of the fences. Loosely sketching in the trees here and the house in the back. You can always erase it and go back later, so don't be afraid to make mistakes with your pencil. So here I am redefining some of the sketch, and in these phases of the drawing, the more information you can give yourself will be easier to lay the ink down later. So really put in those details and be patient with the lines that you're working on. It can be a good idea to lay a piece of paper down beneath your hand so you don't smudge the graphite drawing or the photo reference you're working with. And of course, if you want to use a ruler, you can make your straight lines look really nice. So now that I've got most of the drawing in, I'm going to try to look at these big branchy trees. So I'm going to look at these big branches first. I'm not going to worry about all the mess of the tiny little sprawling branches, and really just try to sketch in a basic shape. So again, looking at the biggest shapes that you see, trying to lay those down, you work from large to small. Now as you define some of the foliage, make sure you set it in front of the tree branches and the trunks, so some of it will wrap around and extend from the front. A bad habit is to just draw it coming off to the sides or from the back, but make sure you can overlap it in some areas. Make it look more realistic. Okay, now it's time for some ink. So I use a metal nib with this Dr. Martin's Black Star Matte ink. This stuff dries really nicely, so you can just paint right over it. And I will take out my medium nib, and I'm going to start with my smallest one right here. So I go ahead and dip it and wipe off any big drops there and just start tracing over your graphite lines. Now I can define some of the tree there to keep that a little darker, and the fence post here that's got this nice curls in it. I'm going to leave some of the tree foliage nice and light because I want that to be really green and bright. So I'm just going to concentrate on defining the shapes of them, but really push the darkness in the tree trunks and the branches, and that will really create a nice contrast. Now I'm going to sketch in the lines of the house here. Now keep in mind there is a right and wrong way to use the pen nib. So depending on the angle that you're holding it, the pen ink will flow a little bit smoothly, but I kind of switch back and forth, so don't tell anybody, but I really find that kind of helpful to define certain small lines. I flip it over and use the back edge. Now I'm going to bring the grass forward, and I like to define the grass in choppy little shapes instead of one long line. That really kind of breaks up the area nicely. Doesn't leave a big open space. There's some grasses, you don't have to be too uniform about it. And I can sketch in the rest of the road here with the grasses on the other side. And I like to lay in these vertical lines to really push your eye back as the driveway continues back to the house. And I'm just going to jot in some more grasses to break up the big white space there. Now I'm cross-hatching in some of the shadows being casted by those big beautiful oak trees and the fence here. You've probably noticed that I'm working from the right side of the page to the left because I'm left-handed. And when you work with ink pens, you have to constantly be aware of the wet ink versus the dry ink, because you don't want to drag your hand through it and smear this big black blob across your painting. Then I'll define the shapes in the house. It's made of brick, so I'm going to add these little cross-hatched lines here to suggest the bricks. And then I will define the posts that are holding up the roof in the front here. Just give them a little bit thicker of a line. And then it's time to erase your graphite. So when the ink is all dry, you can just clean it up. And you're ready to paint. So this is a mixture of sap green with just a little bit of yellow. And I'm going to start to put it down and push it all around where I want the green grass to be. And I will also use this color up in the trees and just do a single layer right through. Laying some darker colors in the shadows of the foliage brings out the form. And I've added some red to the house here and putting the bricks in, and I'm making it just a little bit darker right below the roof to give it sort of a shadow there. Now for the sky, I'll mix up some cerulean and phthalo blue with just a touch of umber to keep it from being such a shocking blue color. And push that around, and don't forget to get in between all those little tree branches and make sure you fill the sky in those tiny little shapes. And I will make a mixture of brown with burnt sienna and burnt umber to place it in the driveway. I'm going to suck some water out of my brush with that paper towel. So I've got a dry brush, and that creates a really interesting texture of the dirt road. And then some burnt umber and sienna for the tree trunks here. I'm going to keep it a little darker on the left side, keeping in mind the light source. And with a brown violet, I'll redefine the cast shadows on the driveway. Putting in the grays for the roof. I think the grass looks pretty yellow, so here I'm layering some blue-green on top of it just to make it a little more cheerful grass color. And the final details, voila!